Good Tuesday afternoon. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Janice Shortle. Happening right now, rain moving through Minnesota and will be for the rest of the day. And the western metro is going to see the most of it. Our weather team is calling a KARE 11 weather impact alert today because of the impacts of the rain and what they will have on you. We're going to check in with the weather team for a closer look at the forecast in just a little bit. New today, Minneapolis teachers are ready to go on strike. 92% of unionized teachers in that district authorized a strike late last night. The teachers union is pushing for what they call livable wages and smaller class sizes. They also say they understand that the district is in a pinch with money.
We are aware of that. This union is aware of what our district and other districts are going through. And we kept that in mind with our costing. So when we go to the table, we have our budget and the district's budget in mind with our proposals.
The teachers union and the district have a mediation session scheduled for Thursday. Union leaders say they will not call a strike until after that meeting. Even then, the union needs to give a 10-day notice before they walk out with teachers. Tonight, educators are holding a rally outside district headquarters in Minneapolis. Developing right now in the Middle East, the fragile ceasefire between Israel and Gaza is starting to fray a little bit more. Today, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordering immediate and powerful strikes in his terms in Gaza. This comes after Netanyahu's office accused Hamas of violating the ceasefire agreement regarding the return of hostage remains. Netanyahu says one of the bodies they recently received was not one of the original 13 remaining hostages. Frustration has been building since this all took place because of the slow return of the remains to the Israelis. A look from Washington, D.C. today, 1 month into the government shutdown. Right now, both sides, yet again, nowhere near an agreement. This afternoon, Senate Democrats voted again to block a Republican stopgap funding bill from advancing. Vice President J.D. Vance is going to meet with Republicans today to talk about the shutdown. Meantime, the largest union that represents federal workers is saying, call this thing off. And they're putting pressure on lawmakers to come to some kind of agreement. And as this shutdown enters day 28, the toll across our country is deepening with air traffic controllers now on the job without pay. NBC's Tom Costello has more from Reagan National in Arlington, Virginia.
Yeah, good day. So air traffic controllers in the tower or at TRACONs and radar facilities nationwide did not get paid today, and yet they are still on the job as we speak, managing the busiest airspace in the world. We've seen mounting delays nationwide, more than 7,000 flight delays yesterday. That's about a quarter of all flights. For several reasons. We could have had weather in some areas. We do have staffing issues. In other words, we've been reporting for years about the shortage of controllers, and now some controllers have been calling out sick in protest of not getting paid, and also because they need to find a second job to make ends meet. Also, we are watching TSA officers. They didn't get paid on Friday. They make less money than air traffic controllers, and yet they continue to show up to work. And yet, we've also seen some of them go to food banks to be able to put food on the table for their families. Food banks also preparing because some 40 million Americans will not be getting their food stamp benefits come Saturday, SNAP benefits. So food banks nationwide are also staffing up and preparing for that. This is going to continue as this shutdown continues, and more people, government workers, more than 730,000 of them, now working without a paycheck, feeling the financial squeeze. And the nation's biggest federal government worker union is demanding that Congress end the shutdown right now and pay these federal workers for the work that they've already done. Back to you.
Staying with the shutdown, the well has run dry. That is the message you'll see on the USDA's website because in a matter of days, as Tom said, the lifeline for groceries won't go out to nearly 42 million Americans. SNAP will be on hold until the shutdown comes to an end. And now Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison is suing to keep those benefits coming. As Morgan Wolf reports, the state is stepping in to help food shelves bear the extra load they're expecting when the well runs dry here.
The biggest challenge is funds and food.
For the last month, food shelves like the Open Door have been sounding the alarm.
We're closer than we've ever been to meeting the need, But this recent shutdown and its impact is absolutely going to have us take a step back for all the progress that we've made.
Federal funds for grocery assistance programs like SNAP will end November 1st if the government shutdown continues.
It's day 27. Doesn't appear like there's any sense of urgency out of the folks in D.C.
Governor Tim Walz is appropriating $4 million from the Family First Prevention Services Act and the Minnesota DHS Human Services Fund, going towards these programs to create a contingency plan for when the federal funding runs out. This is in place of any funds that the USDA says it won't disperse. Republican Representative Kristen Robbins released a statement to CARE saying, "While I'm glad that Minnesotans will still have access to SNAP resources, this wouldn't be necessary if Democrats in D.C. would end Chuck Schumer's shutdown. If Tim Walz really wants to help Minnesotans, he should tell Senators Tina Smith and Amy Klobuchar to do their jobs."
It's our money they're holding on to in D.C. It's our money that's at USDA. It's our money that people went through the legislature and appropriated it, and it's being held.
Walz says that Minnesota won't be paid back the $4 million in funding, and it won't be enough. But it's important to help the 440,000 Minnesotans that use these food benefits.
38% of them are children, and 18% are seniors. And so just to be very clear, this is across every geographic aspect of Minnesota, in fact, disproportionately in greater Minnesota.
It's a temporary fix, but a long-term solution will depend on what happens in Washington.
It's a lot of people who are going to be impacted, really our most vulnerable community members.
Back to the impacts here at home at our airport. Those workers Tom Costello talked about not getting paid tomorrow. Second Harvest Heartland, the Santa Foundation, and the Metropolitan Airports Commission, they're going to give out emergency food boxes to any of those workers that need them for their families. And today is a tough one for about 1,000 Target employees who got laid off this morning. It's part of what the company's new CEO calls a restructuring to work faster and reduce the complexity that has been created at the company, in his opinion, over time. Target told us leaders and managers will be impacted 3 times more than regular employees. Amazon also going through some major changes this morning, cutting about 14,000 corporate jobs. A message to employees from a top executive cited AI driving rapid innovation at Amazon. A look from Jamaica this afternoon, where Hurricane Melissa is getting to shore. Wind speeds closing in on nearly 200 miles per hour. This massive Category 5 storm roars to shore today. It will likely trigger a humanitarian disaster when it's all said and done. Jamaica has never been hit from a Category 5 before. Some of the island are calling this the storm of the century. Melissa will weaken as it moves across Jamaica once it makes landfall. It also is expected to slam Cuba later this week. Moving on to something here at home, there are calls for justice now after our KARE 11 investigation uncovered the deadly case of a Minnesota postal worker who was having a stroke, but he was arrested instead for DWI and put in jail instead of being given any medical attention. Gordon joins us with the details about our community's demand for some answers here.
We are demanding accountability for this appalling lack of treatment.
Outside the Dakota County Jail, where Eagan police officers brought Kingsley Bimpong the night of November 16th of last year, community activists are speaking out.
Something has to be done.
A lawsuit filed by Bimpong's family alleges Eagan police officers and Dakota County corrections officers ignored clear warning signs that Bimpong was suffering from a stroke and was not overdosing on drugs or alcohol. The lawsuit says Bimpong was driving home from work at the Postal Service when he started driving the wrong way into traffic.
Hey Kingsley.
Yeah.
Where do you live?
I don't know.
A KARE 11 investigation revealed drug recognition evaluators, such as one of the officers who assessed Bimpong's condition, are trained that people who are suffering from a stroke will often be confused, and they are warned that a stroke may mimic drug and alcohol impairment. Toxicology reports confirmed no drugs were in his system, when jail video showed Bimpong rolling on the jail floor for more than 3 hours.
Wake up!
Until a jail nurse called paramedics and Bimpong was rushed to the hospital, where he died 3 days later.
He needed help. And what he got
was a cell that turned into a coffin.
Community activists with the Minnesota Freedom Fund, Communities Against Police Brutality, and Black Lives Matter are demanding that all the officers and corrections officers be fired, and that the Minnesota Attorney General's office take over the case to ensure there's an unbiased investigation.
It is unacceptable that you would let a man lay on the floor for 3.5 hours till he went to a hospital and died because you neglected him.
Stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.